So it's the end of 2017, and all of us here at the Colibri Center for Human Rights are reflective about the past year. We wanted to take the opportunity to invite our community in to support our work, and also to share with you all what it is that, at its core, motivates us to do what is so often emotional and difficult and challenging work. And here at Colibri, I think the whole team would agree that what we witness when we're on the phone with the families, and what we witness when we are working with the forensic anthropologists, and when we are working with other humanitarians on the border, is love, especially powerfully demonstrated in a really difficult and deadly and often violent space of the desert borderlands. Not violent because of migrants, but violent because of the way that the border has been policed, and it's led to the loss of life of thousands. At Colibri, we've witnessed that devastating loss of life for more than a decade, but we've also, alongside it, witnessed powerful acts of love and solidarity. I think about that evidence of love first when I think about the cases of migrants found dead in the desert who have been brought to the medical examiner's office and in their pockets actually carry evidence of love, carrying letters from their wives and their husbands, and carrying photographs of small children, evidence of hope and family and love and connection. And that's really what drives me to do this work, and what makes me committed to do this work, is that not only the migrants themselves do we see this profound sense of care and love for their families, but then when they disappear or die on the border, we at Colibri have this intimate glimpse into powerful acts of love that happen when we lose someone that we fiercely love and care about. We also see care and compassion in the lab at the medical examiner's office, among forensic scientists, forensic anthropologists, investigators, and pathologists who care for every single detail of these unknown dead. The forensic anthropologists laying out every single bone and cleaning the bones and measuring the bones and charting each individual surface of every tooth. Nothing is left untouched, nothing is left uncared for in that space. At the medical examiner's office, forensic scientists and Colibri alike, we're all looking for clues to help identify the dead and to help return them to those who knew them and loved them. A political scientist whose work I really respect, Adam Rosenblatt, wrote that the work of forensic care is to expand the circle of care out so that the family and the community can be able to be invited into that act of care and mourning. So forensic scientists' work really expands care around those who are dying on the U.S. Mexico border. And what we do at Colibri is we also work to facilitate inviting in community and inviting in the opportunity for those who recognize that the people dying on the U.S. Mexico border were individual, irreplaceable, special human lives that mattered. And we can absolutely, through mourning, which is not always a sad thing, but remembering the dead can be a joyful thing. It can be an act of solidarity, an act of community, an act of remembrance and recognition that resists the forces of violence currently at play along the U.S. Mexico border. That means something to the families, it means something to the forensic scientists, it means something in a broader political climate that seeks to define migrants so often in dehumanizing ways. I think that migrants themselves provide an alternate model of how to show up for one another as human beings in a political climate or a geographical climate that is incredibly hostile. And over my years at the medical examiner's office, I've witnessed some beautiful acts of care among migrants, despite the fact that they are risking their own death, disappearance, or deportation in the desert borderlands. There was one case in 2005 like this, and local humanitarian and photographer Michael Hyatt photographed the stretcher, which was handmade by a group of migrants after a woman who was traveling with them fell to her death. They tore down mesquite and palo verde branches, and they ripped off pieces of their own clothing, and they fashioned a stretcher, and they carried her. They carried her body because they didn't want to leave her behind alone and uncared for. It's those cases that remind me that we can always do more as a community. If migrants in the desert in triple-digit heat, on their feet, exhausted, many of them that have already come through Mexico and faced horrible abuse, if they can care for one another, then we can also show up as a community to care for the dead and their families. We're so grateful for our community. Thank you.